Kathy here from Kathy's Cute Creations. Today we're going to continue working out of this book right here. Now before we go ahead and work on our block, I want to tell you that I went through my stash and the only light blue fabric I have is actually a piece from Megan, and I'm going to show it to you here, and then I'm going to put these ties down, which we did. This is the blue. I don't know if it will work. It is a really light color, so I'm going to put it here on the table, but let me tell you the block we're going to work on. So you know that I like to read books, so I'm going to do a block that has a bunch of different books. Now, in this book itself, they took the rectangles and they wrote the kind of book. In other words, mystery, nonfiction, fiction, that sort of thing. That's not what I'm doing. What I did was I pulled some fabric from my stash to represent what the book would be. For example, I have a book about flowers because I actually purchased a book about flowers. I have one about trees because I had a tree in my backyard, my previous house, and it had these worms on it that were eating it up. So I tried to figure out what I could put on it, but I did not want to put a poisonous spray because I have animals. And so I was trying to figure out what I could do, so I purchased this book. I think I might have even went ahead and got it out of the library. I'm not sure that I purchased. A lot of books I get out of the library or I download ebooks, but it used to be a long, long time ago. If I didn't buy it, I actually got it from the library and read up on whatever I was trying to figure out and then went from there. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to show you first this tie block, this color. Y'all can tell me if this isn't going to work. Now, I've already looked at all my fat quarters and everything. I don't have any blue. All the blues are darker. I don't have anything that's a real light, like a baby powder type blue. So let's see if this will work or if I just need to put white in it. All right. Okay, here is the blue that I was talking about, and y'all give me your opinion whether I should use that or something else. It's the only blue I got. It is between this and a lighter blue. Got like a marble effect. Alrighty, and now I'm going to show you the block that they did in the book. And of course, I didn't do it that size. I'm doing mine different, but we're going to look at it. Alrighty, so here's what they've done. Now, what I have done is I cut out 2.5-inch strips, and then right now, all the top, I cut out 3-inch. So I'll attach all my white ones and then I'll adjust the bottom ones to fit. And first we're going to attach the white ones to the other color fabrics. I'm going to lay them out here so that you guys can see what I've chosen and what I'm calling them, those blocks, because I didn't write them. So if you want to write the blocks like they did, you can do that. And now, of course, you can have more than one block representing books. So I have a block that represents flowers. I have Harry Potter, which everybody that reads Harry Potter knows that they have Harry Potter books. I got a book about love. That's the trees, to represent the trees. And then when I first got my very first dog, I bought a book about dogs for training and things like that. And then here's my white little rectangles. They're all 3 by 2.5 because all my strips are 2.5 inches. I made them really simple. And then I can always add more to them if I want to. Sort of like a bookshelf where you could have a whole row of books and a bookend on each end if that's what you want to be creative about. So let's go ahead and we're going to attach the white ones to this on the top for every single one of them, and then we'll go from there. Now, let's say that you don't want every one of your books to be the same size. Size-wise, I'm talking about the width, not the length, because we already know they're not going to be the same length because we want to make them, some of them shorter, some of them taller. But now if, for example, I want my tree to be thinner than the 2.5, I can go ahead while my white strip is attached and cut off whatever excess I want. So if I only want that strip to be 2 inches, I'll make it 2 inches. Okay, so I want to make this thinner. So I need to look at it now and say, well, which trees do I want to keep in here? So it looks pretty good with this one here, partially off the side. I think I'd like to keep this big one here, but then I kind of like these colors on these two. So maybe I want to take a little bit off of this and a little bit off of that. Now, if that's the case, I'm going to do it with 2 rulers because I'm taking it off of each side. So let's take it off the right side first. So make sure it is on your cutting surface. The whole thing, don't have any of it hanging off. Take your ruler. Now, my ruler is going from 1 to 4, so I'm going to flip it upside down. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4 now. Put it up against here. And let's take a 1/2 inch first. Actually, I want to keep that tree, so I'm going to go over to, I want this tree on the right side to be in the picture, even though it's going to use a 1/4 inch. So I'd have to go about like this. So all I've done is took my line, my 1/4 inch is right here. It's marked on the ruler, and I've gone all the way up. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to move over to the left to see if I was to make my cut line right on there. Now I'm going to have to turn around and make my sewing line, but I'll lose this entire tree if that's the case. But if I want it to be right on this line to show, this is my 1/4 inch from here to here. So when I cut it there, I'll sew it the 1/4 inch and I'll get the tree in there. If I was to go over like this, I'm taking part of my tree within my seam allowance. I hope that y'all understand that. So that's the first thing I want to do. And then I did go ahead and cut these so that they were flush across the bottom, so I had a point that I could put my ruler so I can square it up. Just got it squared up at the bottom, and I got it squared up across the top before I do any cutting. And then press down on my ruler, just like this, and pull that off. So now when I go to sew, I'm still going to get this tree in there. Now I'm going to turn it upside down. Now if you're going for a specific size, then you can just cut it off from one side or the other. It doesn't make any difference. Now I know I want these 3 in it. I don't care if I chop this next one off. So I want to go like this, so I can keep the whole thing in it. So what I've done is from here to here is 2 1/8. So I put it on my little marks there, all the way down, and it's going across the top, and it's going across the bottom, and it's correct here. So I hold on to it. There we go. And now I have it trimmed to the size I want. And that's what we need to do with each and every one of them if you want them smaller or if you want to leave them. So let me get my blocks out here so we can take a look at them. So looking at it sitting here, I kind of think that maybe I need to make the Harry Potter book a little bit thinner, because, you know, there's a bunch of series of those, so it wouldn't be a really thick book. And then I may take a little bit off of the flower also. So let's go ahead and do that. And it really won't make too much difference on either one, whether I come in on this side or this side. If I take off like this, I'm still getting a lot of these faces in there. I mean, y'all probably can identify who all the faces belong to. It won't make a difference. The difference on the flower book would be, do I want to keep this flower, which is the main pink, and this one? Then I would take it off of this side over here. If I want to take off more of the pink, I'm going to take off the right hand side. So that's just kind of like the decisions that you want to make. And as far as this one, I'll go ahead and take it off a little bit also. And maybe I ought to take every other one off. That would look all right, I guess. But I still want to take some off of these. So for this one, all I did was took my ruler at 2 1/4 on the right hand side and then took it off of the left. That's how that one comes out. I think I'll do that same thing for Harry Potter. And as you notice, I did take all the white and tuck them under when I ironed it. I don't have any of my white showing on the white. And you can do it either way you want. And you don't even have to have white up here at the top. If you want black, you could have black. I just was representing white from my background. It's going to be whatever your background is in your block. So I think I want to take and make this right at 2 1/4. Actually, let's just make it 2. Then it will become a very narrow book. And it looks like my edge is off a little bit, but this is where we're going to fix it. And then we'll just take it off of here. And then it's just a little bit hanging over on this left side. So I'll pick it up, turn it over, and lay it down and match it up on the right hand side now. And then I'm going to show you the little bit. You can see it here in the camera. You can see a little bit hanging over here. So we'll just trim that just like that. It's just this little bit. It's not much of anything, but it's enough. Okay. And now I'll go ahead and trim a little bit, just a little, because I think this one needs it. Now I think I'm going to leave this one and this one the same, keeping in mind that when you decrease them in size and you put your seam on it, this will be a 2 because it'll have a seam on each side. This will be a 2, and these will be the ones that are narrower. And this. So let's go ahead and do this one here. And I think I want to do it off the edge here. Let's do it this way. I'm going to take just a little bit off of here. Okay, instead of going with the white, I'm going to, let me iron this one more time. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to touch up the edge right here. That's the first thing. Then flip it upside down. It's kind of deceiving because it's got a little white on that edge. And now go on this side. I'm going to do. So it's just a little bit bigger than the Harry Potter. And now all we're going to do is try to figure out where do we want to put them. For example, if I lined up the bottoms, just the bottom now, not the top, we're just looking at the bottom, and did them like that, we would end up losing this because this is the shortest one, and that's what you'd be following up there, and we'd end up losing that to only a teeny weeny bit. So that won't work. This one actually has to be cut if we want to bring it down here. So it looks like it needs about 1.5 inches off the bottom. So we can do that. And I'm going to use this little board right here for my 1.5 inches. It's going to take it up here to 7.5. Now I'm going 7.5 by this number, not inches now. I've got it on the line of the 8. And I've come up to the 6.5. Taking a little bit off at a time so I get an idea of what it looks like. And you know, I can always move this around now. These aren't locked in exact spot if I don't want to have them facing this direction. That one, and then take a long ruler, because this is what I'm doing to figure mine. Just go across the top one like that. And where that ruler's at, that's what they would look like. Well, this to me looks off. This looks okay, but this one doesn't. What I can do is actually pull this down a little bit like that. Now I can pin these and take off of the bottom and come down with the dog book like that. And then what I can do is just fold this over and pin it right where it is and take it from there and then cut it off after the fact. Or while I've got it here, I can mark all the way across the top with my pen, or mark all the way across the bottom with my pen, whichever one I want to do. So I'll just take my friction pen here, and I'm on a mat, so I'm pulling my mat down just like this, and then I'm going to put my ruler up there, and I'll come on the side of the mark. So wherever I mark it, and I'll show you here. So here I'm going to mark it. Like this. It's going to give me an idea. And now what I'll do, since this one's staying the same, I will line all these up and I will just mark them off of the top. Then I will line them up and mark it off of the bottom. So let me show you what I'm talking about. Now looking at it, you probably think it's an awful wide block, but you're not thinking about the 1/4 inch seam allowance, which is going to take quite a bit away from this block. All right, so let's get pinning. Okay, so I've pinned the first right strip to the Harry Potter. So the flowers are going to Harry Potter, and they're matching up here at the top because that's where I trimmed them. Whichever ends you trim them at, that would be the one you're going to want to do. And I did a little bit of a pin in here just because it's going to be so wobbly. I was thinking about these blocks when I was laying them out here, the way that somebody had wrote nonfiction, fiction, and all that, which I thought was kind of interesting. You know, for the longest time, I thought that non-fiction meant the opposite of what it means. You know, a lot of things in the English language are like that, where they're confusing for those that are new. And I really didn't even notice that much until someone who didn't speak English didn't understand and couldn't make heads or tails out of it. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take the next 2 blocks, which are the number and the, I guess you could call it the Book of Love, or the romance book, or Finding Love. I mean, you can call that anything you want. I'm going to pin those 2 together, keeping in mind that if you have taken your blocks and when you took them and you ironed them downward, then you're not going to have to worry about anything, and you're not having to nestle anything in this block. I think the next block we're doing is going to have nestling. Now, if you've noticed, if you've bought this book or you got this book, I'm not going from chapter to chapter. I'm actually jumping around because I skipped the part about the marriage right now. I'm not sure which block I want to do in that chapter. So that's why I went ahead and went to this next one, because I found a couple of them that I really like, and that's what I'm going to be doing. And I'm going to slip in between these. I want to go ahead and do another foot. I pulled up my list of what the people wanted to know, what you guys had suggested that you wanted to see the foot. So I pulled that up and I've got that to do my next video for y'all. And I think when I do that video, I'm not sure if I want to show you the left-handed rotary cutter. The one that I use is right-handed, but I did get that in the mail. I've got a left-handed, so I have cut with the regular rotary cutter left-handed, and I'm going to try to do it because my sister's left-handed, and I want to give her one for left-handed. Right now, she doesn't do a lot of her fabric cutting because the way that she cuts it, and I haven't watched her and I haven't seen it, she doesn't have Facebook or anything, so I can't, I mean not Facebook, excuse me. She doesn't have FaceTime, so I can't see how she's cutting, but Bob told me that when she cuts, she's cutting towards herself. I don't know how the heck she's holding that rotary cutter to be towards herself. So she's the perfect person who needs to be doing it correctly. Another thing about this specific rotary cutter is that that blade I mean, you'd have to turn that thing upside down, I would think, to get cut because of the way that it automatically just sets. For example, I have it set up right now. I'm going to show you here when I get done what I'm talking about. I noticed that when I was talking about it the last time and I didn't mention it, and I'm thinking, wow, that's a pretty good safety feature on that one, even though it's closed. But I never leave it open because I never know who might come up here and not know, because you can't really tell whether it is open or not open unless you know the rotary cutter itself. And I wouldn't want somebody picking that up and accidentally cutting themselves by not knowing. So I'm going to show it to you here in a minute. Just a real brief look at it. I really do like it too, by the way. I haven't gone back to using the other one since. And I do have carpal tunnel syndrome from using the, first it was from the typewriter and then it was from the printer. Because I do repetitive type motion with the printer. I mean, not the printer, excuse me, the computer. But I've noticed that my wrists don't hurt since I've started using that. Also, they used to hurt when I cut fabric. Now just my back hurts. Alrighty, there we go. We're going to take it apart, and I'm going to iron it before I attach all of these together. But first, let me show you this rotary cutter real quick. Alrighty, so here's what I'm talking about when it comes to this rotary cutter. First off, this is the way that it sits on the table. Alrighty, you don't lay it like that. I mean, you wouldn't even think to lay it like that. You would never lay it upside down because the blade is faced up at you. Nobody lays their rotary blade upside down. But if you do, it is closed, showing the black strip down the middle with the two reds on the side. Okay, you can't see the blade is actually shut. But as soon as you take your rotary cutter and you're done with it and you move it aside, automatically you let go of it and it's sitting like that. So if the blade was open and exposed, it's down towards the cutting board. Get another rotary cutter so I can show you what I'm talking about. Alrighty, so here's your regular rotary cutter. And you pull this back towards you and you've exposed your blade. If you don't cover it, then your blade is always exposed. Okay? And when you lay it down like this, let's say you lay it down, and that's fine. But what happens when you reach over to do something and you pull your hand back and you bump it? You've literally cut yourself. This is like having an open razor on your table if you do not shut it. Even if you turn it upside down and it's open, it is still exposed. Okay? This is not exposed. You literally have to flip it upside down like this to get it to be exposed. And normally you wouldn't do that. This one, you're going to turn it whichever way you want. You're going to turn it right or the left. You're never going to set it up on its end like that. You wouldn't even think about it. You're either going to have it this way or that way. And it needs to be closed. You just need to remember to close it all the time. And I know that people say, well, yeah, that's a habit of mine. But I'm telling you from experience, I've thought mine was closed many a time because it was an automatic thing for me to do, and it wasn't. Not that I cut myself, because I've never cut myself while it was open. I've been very, very lucky. I actually cut myself when I was rotary cutting with it. But anyway, so the reason I really, really like this is I just feel like it's a lot safer, but it is safer for your wrist itself, but safer in the concept that when you put it down or wherever you store it, because when I store these, I don't normally store them like this, which a lot of people will. I always store it up. It's sort of like a pencil. So now we have our 3 ironed pieces. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and connect them. I'm going to pin these and sew it, and then open it, and then pin these 2 and sew it and open it, and then we'll see what size our block is widthwise. Okay? So has anybody bought any of these kind of books that I buy, like tree books or nature books? Or, I mean, I bought the, I think it's the Audubon. Is that the book that's got all the different birds in it? I bought that so I could identify some birds that I had in my yard that I didn't know what they were. But that book seems to go on and on. I mean, it's not like those birds are going to be changing. They're not, the species isn't changing any. They might go extinct, but they won't be changing. And when I think about these red hearts on this book, I think about a book about romance or even a romance story because it represents so much stuff. I also was thinking about horoscopes. I don't know if they have such a thing as a horoscope book. I know that you can get a daily reading of your horoscope, that kind of thing, or I guess you could get a monthly horoscope, or you can get your cards read and all that stuff. Now, I've never done any of that, So I don't know, have you guys done any of that? Anybody went and got their horoscope? Or, well, it wouldn't be the horoscope. I guess it would be your reading is what it would be called. I don't know if it would be your hand or... I see that when I go to get my hair cut up by the place that I get it cut at, they've got a tarot reading your cards in the building like next door. It's also got a Rita's to get that little, I call them slushies. I don't know what they're called. But anyway, so I only know one person that's got a reading. And she got it. I'm going to guess that she's gotten them before because she knew quite a bit about them, and I don't really know that much about them. And she believes in them, and she was embarking on a new career. She was wanting to get out from underneath the job that she had. She didn't care for it. She wanted to move on and grow. And she did a reading before she applied for some jobs. Her cards, or the individual, the lady, I don't know if it was over the telephone or she went in person or what it was. I don't know. I think it was over the telephone. I didn't even know you could do it over the telephone either. Let me go ahead and iron these open. So this is what I'm going to do. First I've got to see if this other ruler that I like, that's wider. I don't really want to use the thinner one. Let me get a wider ruler. Okay, this one works. And I'm going to line this up. Now, I do have this squared here on the corner, so I can line it up against that. I have it flat up here, and it is going to be 11 inches, excuse me. And I can get all of this in there, and I'm going to press down on it as I cut it. But anyway, let me tell you about this girl. So anyway, she gets her reading, and it was a favorable reading, telling her that she was making the right move and that she was going to be happy, she was going to make more money, it was everything she wanted, you know, the whole thing. Now, that's mainly what she told me about, so that's what I'm telling y'all about. Well, anyway, she went ahead and put in a whole bunch of applications, and sure enough, she got an offer a job in Washington, D.C., and it really ended up being her dream job. I'm going to cut this little piece off right there. There we go. And there's what our block looks like. So I told you that it was 11 inches long. And it is about, I guess if you stretched it, it would be 11. When you go to ironing it, it'll be 11 when I iron it out really flat. So 11 by 11, and then, you know, we're going to put the borders on it to make more. So I hope you guys like this block. But anyway, about this girl, she was really, really happy. I mean, it kind of makes you believe in that kind of stuff. Because she went ahead, I asked her to tell me, I'm going to take these little scragglies off here. That's all I'm doing. Just taking the scragglies off. Little pieces right there. That's it. I'm not trimming it or anything. But anyway, she was really, really happy, and she believes in this reading and everything. And I was just wondering if you guys believed in that kind of thing. I mean, I never thought about it. I don't know if I would believe it or not. I mean, you know, I do believe that everything's connected to everything else. So that I gotta agree with that, because I do think, you know, I believe in the women's intuition, and if you have a feeling and you feel like you need to get away, like it's a scared kind of feeling, then I believe in that. I believe in all the different things like that. I believe in, because that kind of stuff has happened to me, and I've went ahead and, you know, whatever I felt like, if I felt like I needed to get out of a situation, then I got out of it. So I think I better wrap up this. I feel like I'm rattling on y'all. Maybe you don't even want to hear me talk. Let me go ahead and end this video, and I hope y'all enjoyed this video. And like I said, you can go ahead and put the book, if you've got a specific book and you want to put the name. Now, if I wanted to add names to this, like not names, but, you know, the name of the book, I could actually go ahead and do that and applicate it on here. You know, all I'd have to do is take white, or I could take solid black and put it on there and embroider the name on the little patch type thing and put it on that if I wanted to. But I kind of like this because it makes me think of other stuff when I look at these blocks, and that's kind of what I want to do, is I want to think about all the different, you know, when I look at the paw prints, I think of my dogs when they were puppies, and then I think about their training and, you know, all the different dogs I've had, because I've had quite a few dogs. I also think of the cats that I've had, because we have 3 cats right now, but my very first cat was a striped cat, but he only lasted about a year because he was an outdoor cat. And if anybody knows what fun night is, that's a super duper old word. Back in the 60s when I was a child, we had a fun night every single year, and he was killed on fun night. And that's when, you know, all the traffic is out because of all the people going to the school and everything. Well, that's another subject. But anyway, so I hope you enjoyed this block. I'm sorry I got off on a tangent again. I think I need to have a live so we can just do some talking and have a tangent here. Just to talk one-on-one with each other. But anyway, so I hope you enjoyed this block, and I hope y'all are going ahead and following along, and you know, you can make up your own block. You don't have to follow my blocks. Maybe my blocks will give you suggestions as to making whatever you want. I mean, that'd be pretty neat too. You know, these blocks that I started out, like this one that I made the house, and I made the spool, and the first kiss, and the pineapple. Those blocks, if you followed along and you made those blocks and you don't really have an intent to do anything with them, you can put them in with this. You know, you can do the house block to be your first home that you bought when you first bought a house, or when you got married and bought a house, or maybe it's the first house you rented, you know, whatever, that kind of thing. But like I say, I hope you enjoyed this video. Give it a thumbs up if you did. Please make a comment so I kind of know if you guys are enjoying these. I mean, I don't even know. And I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching, everybody. Bye-bye.